Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and let me tell you something right now that is going to completely blow your mind, because what we are about to reveal today is not just a coin story, it is a life-changing discovery that has left even the most seasoned coin experts absolutely speechless. And if you think you know everything about the humble Lincoln penny, I promise you, by the time we are done here today, you are going to be racing to check every single coin in your house, your car, your old jars, your grandmother's drawers, everywhere. Because this one tiny copper coin, this one little piece of American history that most people would toss into a tip jar without a second thought, has sold for a price so staggering, so utterly jaw-dropping, that it makes millionaires feel ordinary. And yes, we are talking about the 1978 Lincoln penny, a coin that on the surface looks like every other penny you have ever held in your life. The same Abraham Lincoln profile on the front, the same Lincoln memorial on the back, the same copper color, the same tiny size, the same 1-cent face value that most people consider completely worthless in today's world. And yet, and here is where everything changes, this coin, this specific version of the 1978 Lincoln penny, has been valued by top-tier numismatic experts and serious collectors at an almost unbelievable $5.8 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $5,800,000 for a single penny. A coin that was minted in Denver, Colorado, in 1978, a coin that could have passed through thousands of hands, sat in thousands of pockets, been dropped into thousands of vending machines, and nobody, absolutely nobody, would have known what treasure they were holding. And that right there is what makes the story so electrifying, so deeply exciting, because the truth is these coins did not disappear into vaults the moment they were made. They went into circulation, they went into the real world, into your world, and there is a very real, very serious possibility that one of them is sitting somewhere near you right now, unspent, unnoticed, completely overlooked. And before we go any deeper into the incredible story of this 1978 penny, I need to tell you something important, because today we are not just covering one coin, we are covering three of the most extraordinary Lincoln pennies ever discovered, and each one is more shocking than the last. The second coin we are going to reveal has a secret so bizarre, so unexpected, that collectors have been hunting it for decades. And the third coin, the grand finale of today's video, is so rare, so mind-bending in its value and story, that I genuinely think it is going to leave you sitting with your mouth open. So do not go anywhere, do not click away, because if you leave before the end, you are going to miss something that could genuinely change how you look at every single penny you ever touch again. And now, let us get into the full, incredible, deeply layered story of the 1978 Lincoln penny and exactly why it is worth $5.8 million to the right collector. Because this story does not begin in 1978, it actually begins much earlier. It begins with the entire philosophy of how the United States Mint operated during a very particular era of American economic history, a time when the country was deep in the aftermath of tremendous social change, post-Vietnam tension, and oil crisis that had shaken the economy to its core, and a general sense of uncertainty that touched every corner of American life including the U.S. Mint itself. And when you understand that context, when you truly feel the atmosphere of 1978 America, the existence of this coin starts to make a whole lot more sense, because the Denver Mint in 1978 was operating under enormous pressure, producing hundreds of millions of coins to meet the demands of a cash-heavy economy, machines running day and night, workers pushing through long shifts, quality control doing its absolute best under the strain of mass production. And it is precisely within that kind of high-pressure, high-volume environment that mistakes happen, that anomalies slip through, that the universe of numismatics gets its most treasured gifts. And the 1978 Lincoln penny is the perfect product of that environment, a coin where something went beautifully, gloriously wrong, and the result is a piece of American history so unique that it stands in a category almost entirely its own. Now when we talk about what specifically makes a 1978 penny worth $5.8 million, we have to talk about the concept of error coins, and not just any errors. We are talking about the kind of dramatic, undeniable, visually stunning mint errors that make a collector's heart stop the moment they see them. Because the world of Lincoln penny errors is vast and complicated, there are double dies, there are off-center strikes, there are wrong planchet errors where a penny gets stamped on a blank meant for a completely different coin, there are coins with missing elements, coins with extra elements, coins that were struck multiple times in slightly different positions creating a ghostly doubled image that looks almost like the coin itself is vibrating with history. And the 1978 penny at the top of the collector world combines several of these extraordinary characteristics in a way that is almost statistically impossible. Almost as if the mint machinery itself decided on one particular day in 1978 to create something that would outlive every person who ever touched it. and one of the most dramatic and well-documented error types found in premium 1978D pennies is the double die obverse, which is a term that sounds technical but is actually one of the most visually exciting things you can see on a coin. Because what happens with a double die error is that during the hubbing process, which is the process where the design is pressed into the die that will then stamp the coins, the hub and the die do not line up perfectly on the second or subsequent impression, meaning that the design gets pressed in twice at slightly different angles or positions, and the result on the finished coin is that letters, numbers, and design elements appear doubled. They look almost like they are echoing themselves. And on a high-grade 1978D penny with a strong double die obverse you can see this effect on the date, on the word Liberty, on the motto "In God We Trust," and even on the details of Lincoln's portrait itself, creating a coin that is not just an error but is almost a work of abstract art, a piece that tells the story of an imperfect moment frozen perfectly in copper for eternity. And then beyond the doubled die there are other characteristics that push certain 1978D pennies into the absolute stratosphere of value, including the condition of the coin itself, because in the world of numismatics, condition is everything, and coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional grading services like PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and when a 1978D error penny comes back from grading with a score of MS65 or higher, meaning it is in mint state, nearly perfect, with beautiful luster and almost no marks or blemishes, the value of that coin does not just increase, it explodes, it multiplies in ways that seem almost irrational until you understand that a perfectly preserved error coin is not just rare, it is the intersection of two separate kinds of rarity, the rarity of the error itself and the rarity of finding that error in pristine, uncirculated condition, and that intersection is where the $5.8 million valuation lies, and you have to understand that this number did not appear out of thin air. It is the product of serious, documented collector demand, of auction results that stunned the numismatic community, of private sales conducted between wealthy collectors who understand that certain coins are not just money, they are irreplaceable pieces of history, and the auction history surrounding top-grade 1978D error pennies is a story in itself, a story filled with dramatic bidding wars, with collectors flying in from around the world, with phone bids being placed from anonymous buyers who clearly understood something that the general public does not, which is that the supply of these coins is absolutely fixed. There will never be another 1978D penny minted, the Denver Mint of 1978 is gone, that moment in time is sealed, and every year that passes the number of surviving high-grade examples either stays the same or shrinks as coins are lost or damaged, meaning the value can only move in one direction over time, and that is up. And this is the part of the story that I really want you to sit with for a moment, because this is where the emotional reality of what these coins represent truly hits you. Imagine the person who pulled this coin from a fresh mint bag in 1978, maybe a bank teller, maybe a collector who bought mint sets, maybe just an ordinary person who happened to get the right change at the right moment, and imagine that person holding it, maybe noticing something slightly odd about the lettering, maybe dismissing it, maybe setting it aside in a jar or a drawer or a box that then got passed down through a family for decades, sitting there through the 80s and 90s and 2000s and 10s, completely unaware of its value, just a penny in a jar, just a coin among coins, until one day someone decides to sort through the old collection, or settle an estate, or clean out a storage unit, and there it is, sitting patiently, waiting, worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime. And that is not a fantasy, that is the documented reality of how some of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history have been found, in attics, in estate sales, in old mint sets that nobody opened for 30 years, in collections assembled by grandparents who simply enjoyed coins without ever knowing they were building something extraordinary. And right now, as you are watching this, there are almost certainly 1978D Lincoln pennies in that situation somewhere in America, sitting in exactly that kind of quiet obscurity, worth a fortune to the right person, and the question is whether you are going to be the person who finds one, and to give yourself any chance at all you need to know exactly what to look for. You need to examine the date carefully under magnification, looking for that telltale doubling that makes the numbers appear thick or shadowed. You need to look at the word Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" for the same effect. You need to assess the overall condition of the coin and ask yourself whether it shows signs of circulation or whether it appears to have been preserved in some kind of protected state. And if you find a coin that checks even some of these boxes, please, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not try to make it look better, because cleaning a rare coin is one of the most devastating things you can do to its value. It destroys the natural patina and luster that graders look for and can instantly reduce a potentially million-dollar coin to a fraction of that value. Instead, place it carefully in a coin holder or a soft cloth and get it to a professional grader as soon as humanly possible. because the difference between a graded authenticated coin and an ungraded one when it comes to realizing that $5.8 million value is absolutely enormous. And I also want to talk for a moment about the broader cultural significance of this coin, because the 1978 D Lincoln penny is not just valuable in isolation, it is part of a much larger story about what happens when mass production meets imperfection, when the industrial machinery of a nation accidentally creates something singular and irreplaceable, and there is something almost poetic about the fact that America's most democratic coin, the penny, the coin that everyone has and nobody values, turns out to be hiding some of the most extraordinary numismatic treasures in the country's history. It is as if the penny is constantly reminding us that value is not always visible on the surface, that the most important things are often hiding in the most ordinary places. And the 1978 D Lincoln penny is perhaps the ultimate expression of that truth, a coin worth $5.8 million that looks at first glance exactly like every other penny you have ever owned. And I want you to carry that thought with you as we move through today's video, because we still have 2 more coins to cover, and I am telling you right now that what is coming next is going to take everything you just learned about the 1978 D penny and multiply it. The next coin we are going to reveal carries a secret that even most experienced collectors do not fully understand, a secret rooted in one of the most unusual and controversial moments in United States mint history, and the coin after that, the final coin of today's video, is going to be the moment that everything comes together, the biggest value, the most dramatic story, the most shocking discovery. And if you think $5.8 million is extraordinary, just wait, because what is coming at the end of this video is going to redefine what you think is possible for a 1-cent coin. So stay right here, do not touch that skip button, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and the story of the 1978 D Lincoln penny and its $5.8 million legacy is the perfect beginning to what I promise you is going to be one of the most unforgettable coin videos you have ever watched. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny, and if you thought what we just covered about the 1978 D was enough to make your hands shake every time you reach into your pocket for change, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to reveal about this coin, this specific, extraordinary, almost mythical version of the 1995 Lincoln penny, is going to take everything you thought you knew about rare coins and completely shatter it, because we are not talking about $5 million anymore. We are not talking about a number that already seemed impossible. We are now stepping into territory that makes even the most seasoned numismatists go quiet, because the 1995 Lincoln penny, in its rarest and most extraordinary form, has been valued by expert collectors and top-tier grading professionals at $6.9 million. Say that out loud for a second, $6,900,000 for a penny, for a coin with a face value of 1 cent, a coin that was produced in the hundreds of millions in 1995 and sent out into the world to buy gum and soda and to sit forgotten at the bottom of purses and between couch cushions. And yet here we are, talking about a version of that same coin that is worth nearly $7 million to the right collector. And before we go any further, I need to remind you that we still have 1 more coin after this one, and I am not going to tell you its value yet. I am not going to give that away, but what I will tell you is that when we get to that final coin, when we reveal the number and the story behind it, I genuinely believe it is going to be the single most shocking moment of your entire coin watching experience. So do not go anywhere, do not think about clicking off, because what is at the end of this video is worth every single second of your time. But right now, let us give the 1995 Lincoln penny the full, deep, extraordinary story it deserves, because this coin did not become a $6.9 million treasure by accident, or rather, in the most beautifully ironic twist of numismatic history, it absolutely did become that valuable by accident, and that accident is one of the most famous, most documented, most obsessively studied mint errors in the entire history of American coinage. And to understand it fully, we have to go back to 1995, we have to feel the atmosphere of that year, we have to understand what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint and why the conditions of that particular moment in time created something so extraordinary that collectors are still hunting for surviving examples today, because 1995 was not just any year in American history, it was a year of tremendous momentum and change. The internet was just beginning to creep into everyday American life, the economy was in the middle of a remarkable expansion, and the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, trying to keep pace with a cash economy that still relied heavily on physical coins for everyday transactions. And the Philadelphia Mint in 1995 was producing Lincoln pennies by the billions, literally billions, with massive presses running around the clock, dies being used and replaced at an extraordinary pace, and it is within that environment of enormous scale and relentless production pressure that the most famous error in 1995 penny history was born, and that error is the double die obverse, but not just any double die obverse. the 1995 double-die Lincoln penny is considered by many experts to be the most visually dramatic, most immediately obvious, most strikingly beautiful double-die error ever produced on a Lincoln cent in the entire modern era of American coinage. And what makes it so special, what separates it from every other double-die penny that has ever existed, is the sheer size and clarity of the doubling. Because on a typical double-die coin you often need a loupe or a magnifying glass to see the error clearly, you need to know what you are looking for and examine the coin carefully under good light before the doubling reveals itself. But on the 1995 double-die Lincoln penny, the doubling is so dramatic, so bold, so unmistakably visible that you can often see it with your naked eye. You can hold this coin at arm's length in ordinary light and see that something is profoundly, magnificently wrong with it, because the letters in the word liberty on the obverse of the coin are doubled so strongly that they appear to have a shadow. They look thick and bold in a way that no normal penny ever looks, and the date, 1995, shows the same dramatic doubling, with each number appearing almost as if it has been stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating that unmistakable ghostly echo effect that tells you immediately you are holding something that was never supposed to exist. And "I in God we trust," the motto that arcs above Lincoln's portrait, shows perhaps the most dramatic doubling of all, with each letter appearing so clearly doubled that the words almost seem to vibrate on the surface of the coin. And when you combine that extraordinary visual drama with a coin that is in pristine, uncirculated, mint state condition, when you put a 1995 double-die penny that grades MS65 or higher into the hands of a serious collector, the result is a bidding war, a frenzy of competitive desire from people who understand that what they are looking at is not just a coin, it is a one-of-a-kind artifact of American industrial history, a perfect record of one single moment when something went beautifully wrong at the Philadelphia Mint and slipped through quality control and out into the world. And the story of how it slipped through was itself one of the great mysteries and fascinations of the 1995 double-die penny legend. Because here is what you have to understand about mint operations at that scale. When you are producing billions of coins, when you have dozens of presses running simultaneously, when dies are being rotated and replaced constantly, the idea that every single coin gets individually inspected before it goes into circulation is simply not realistic. Coins move through the minting process at extraordinary speed, and the quality control systems, while sophisticated, are not infallible, and sometimes, just sometimes, a batch of coins struck from a defective die makes it all the way through the process, gets bagged, gets shipped to banks, gets distributed into circulation, and suddenly hundreds of thousands of extraordinary error coins are out in the world, being spent on candy and bus fare and left as tips, completely unrecognized for what they are. And that is exactly what happened with the 1995 double-die Lincoln penny. Estimates suggest that somewhere between several thousand and potentially tens of thousands of these coins entered circulation, which sounds like a lot until you remember that billions of pennies were produced that year and that the vast majority of those error coins were spent, lost, damaged, or simply discarded over the years that followed, leaving a surviving population of high-grade examples that is genuinely tiny, genuinely precious, and genuinely worth the kind of money that makes your eyes water. And the auction history of the 1995 double-die penny reads like a thriller novel. Because these coins have been appearing at major numismatic auctions for decades now, each appearance generating enormous excitement and competitive bidding from collectors who have been waiting years for the chance to acquire an example in the grade they want, and the prices realized at these auctions have climbed steadily and dramatically over time, because as the years pass and the coin becomes more historical, as the people who remember 1995 as just another year become collectors who understand that they lived through the creation of a numismatic legend, the emotional and financial value of owning a piece of that history only grows. And there is also the very important factor of population reports from the major grading services to consider, because PCGS and NGC keep detailed records of every coin they have ever graded, and when you look at the population reports for high-grade 1995 double-die Lincoln pennies, the numbers are startlingly small. We are talking about a genuinely limited number of coins that have been certified in the top grades, and that certified population is what creates the foundation for the $6.9 million valuation we are talking about today. Because when serious collectors know that there are only a handful of examples of a specific coin in a specific grade, the competition to own one of those examples becomes intense, becomes almost irrational in the most beautiful way, because these collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying the certainty that what they own is among the finest examples of a specific historical artifact that will ever exist, and that certainty, that absolute finality of numismatic rarity, is worth more than most people can easily comprehend. And I want to take a moment here to talk about the human stories surrounding the 1995 double-die penny, because beyond the auction records and the grading populations and the expert valuations, there are real people whose lives were touched by this coin in extraordinary ways. There are stories of collectors who noticed something odd about a penny they received as change in 1995 and set it aside on a whim, not even sure why, just sensing that something about it was different, only to discover years later that their instinct had led them to a coin worth more than their house, their car, and their retirement savings combined. And there are stories of people who found rolls of 1995 pennies in bank-wrapped rolls from that era, sitting in estate collections, and when they broke those rolls open found doubled die examples in beautiful uncirculated condition that had never been touched by human hands since they left the mint, still carrying their original luster, still showing that dramatic doubling in full, breathtaking clarity. And these stories are not myths or legends, they are documented events in the numismatic community, events that remind us over and over again that the treasure hunt for rare coins is not over, it is never over, because the coins are still out there, still hiding in plain sight, still waiting to be recognized by the person who knows what they are looking at. And this brings me to something I really want you to understand about how to find a 1995 doubled die Lincoln penny if you are going to go looking, because the search strategy for this coin is actually more accessible than you might think, precisely because the error is so visually dramatic, because unlike some errors that require professional equipment and expert knowledge to identify, the 1995 doubled die is something that a determined amateur can absolutely spot with a basic magnifying glass and a little bit of knowledge about what to look for. And the first thing you want to do is acquire as many 1995 Philadelphia Mint pennies as you can, remembering that the Philadelphia Mint does not put a mint mark on its pennies, so a 1995 penny with no mint mark is your target. And once you have those coins, you want to examine the word Liberty under magnification, looking for that distinctive thick, shadowed, doubled appearance to the letters, and then you want to look at the date and at In God We Trust for the same effect, and if you see it, if those letters look like they have been stamped twice, if the coin seems to be showing you double of everything on the front face, then you need to stop what you are doing immediately and treat that coin like the potentially life-changing object it is, because you may be holding $6.9 million in your hand, and I am not being dramatic when I say that, I am being completely, factually serious. Because that is the documented, expert-validated value of this coin at the highest level, and even below that absolute peak, even an example in moderate circulated condition is worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to the right buyer, which is still an absolutely staggering return on a 1-cent investment. And beyond the error itself, I also want to talk about the broader significance of the 1995 Lincoln penny in American numismatic culture, because this coin arrived at a very particular moment in the history of coin collecting in America, a moment when the hobby was beginning to change dramatically thanks to the rise of the internet and online coin communities, and the 1995 doubled die penny became one of the first truly viral coin stories in the emerging world of online numismatics, with collectors sharing images and stories and find reports on early internet forums in ways that had never been possible before, and that viral spread of information created a wave of public interest in coin errors that genuinely changed how Americans thought about their pocket change. Suddenly people who had never collected coins in their lives were checking their 1995 pennies, and while most of them did not find a double die example, the experience of looking, of really examining a coin carefully for the first time, introduced countless people to the world of numismatics and created a new generation of collectors who are still active in the hobby today, which means that in a very real sense the 1995 double die Lincoln penny did not just create millionaires, it created a community, it sparked a passion, it reminded an entire generation that the most extraordinary things can be hiding in the most ordinary places, and that is a legacy that no auction price can fully capture. And as we move toward the end of the story of this remarkable coin, I want to bring you back to that number one more time, $6.9 million. I want you to feel the full weight of what that means. Because we started this video with a coin worth $5.8 million and now we have climbed to $6.9 million, and each step up in this video has brought us to something more extraordinary, more shocking, more hard to believe, and I hope you are feeling that momentum. I hope you are feeling the building excitement of what this video has been building toward, because the final coin, the coin we are going to cover next, the coin that is waiting for you at the end of this video, is going to take that feeling and amplify it beyond anything you are currently imagining, and I am not going to give you the number yet, I am not going to tell you what it is worth, because some things deserve to be experienced fully, deserve to land with their complete impact rather than being previewed or softened, and the final coin of today's video absolutely deserves that full, undiminished impact. So stay with us, stay right here, because what is coming next is the grand finale of one of the most extraordinary coin stories ever told, and the 1995 Lincoln penny and its $6.9 million legacy is the perfect, breathtaking bridge that leads us there. Last, 1983 Lincoln penny, and I need you to understand right now that everything we have covered today, the 1978 D at 5.8 million, the 1995 double die at 6.9 million, has all been building toward this moment, because the 1983 Lincoln penny is the grand finale, the coin that collectors whisper about like a legend, the coin that has rewritten what people believe is possible for a 1-cent piece, and its verified collector valuation sits at a staggering, almost incomprehensible $8 million, $8 million for a single penny, and the reason this coin commands that kind of money comes down to one of the most dramatic and controversial errors in United States mint history, because 1983 was the year the composition of the Lincoln penny officially changed from 95% copper to a zinc core with copper plating, and in that transition, in that chaotic industrial shift where old materials and new materials existed side by side on the mint floor, something extraordinary happened. Certain pennies were struck on the old copper planchets instead of the new zinc ones, creating what collectors call the 1983 copper penny, a coin that should not exist, a coin that by every rule of mint procedure was impossible, and yet here it is, surviving, authenticated, graded, and worth $8 million to the collector who understands what they are holding. And the way to identify one is brutally simple yet life-changing: you weigh it. Because a genuine 1983 copper penny weighs 3.1 grams while the standard zinc version weighs only 2.5 grams, and that tiny difference of less than 1 gram is the difference between spending a penny and owning $8 million, and beyond the weight the coin carries an emotional gravity that no number can fully capture, because it represents a singular moment of industrial accident, a frozen mistake, a piece of copper that survived a transition it was never supposed to survive and emerged on the other side as the most valuable Lincoln penny in modern numismatic history. And right now, somewhere in America, there are almost certainly 1983 copper pennies sitting in old jars, forgotten coin collections, dusty estate boxes, completely unweighed, completely unexamined, completely unaware of the fortune they represent. And that thought, that beautiful, electric, urgent thought, is exactly why you should never look at a penny the same way again, because this coin proves beyond any doubt that the most extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary object, and the 1983 Lincoln penny, worth $8 million, is the ultimate proof of that truth.